Good morning, everyone. I'm Kevin Allen. I'm joined by my usual broadcast partner, former NHL defenseman Tom Laidlaw. Played for 11 seasons on defense for the New York Rangers and the Los Angeles Kings. This is the Laidlaw and Allen Report. Come to you twice a week to talk all things hockey. And Tom, when Brady McNabb scored that goal last night, I could almost hear that series turning. Like you could just feel it. Some people I've seen on Twitter have said, this is a boring series. I find it so highly entertaining because of the tension. The tension to me is so entertaining. Like I'm watching that third period thinking, if Vegas scores, Vegas is going to win it.
Yeah.
They're protecting this lead. They're doing a good job. But if Vegas scores, Vegas is going to win it.
Yeah.
And they scored. And, Montreal's playing hard. Hard. They being the Golden Knights, they needed one big save, and they got it from Robin Lehner. But, we got to unpack that too. Should Robin Lehner even been in the game? Give me your take on what that series and what you thought of the goalie switch and everything.
Well, I'm a huge fan of Marc-Andre Fleury, right? I love the way he plays, but he had some gaffes there too that kind of hurt his team. That one where he lost the puck behind the net and everything. So I wasn't surprised they went back with Lehner. I was happily surprised for Lehner that he seemed to be back on his game because he did not play well early in the playoffs there. So he's back. But it's interesting to see people say that's a boring series. I think maybe because there's not as many goals being scored because the goaltending has just been fantastic. So I'm with you. I love that tension that they have in those playoff games. Are really close games all the time. You get those blow-away games where 7-2 or something like that, and those aren't any fun either. Those games where
I'm boring. Yeah, I'm bored when they score goals like that.
Totally. Yeah, it is true. Yeah, because it's 7-2. And maybe it's like a period and a half still to play, and it's a 7-2 game, so it's not exciting. But it was a 1-goal game all through the game. Those are fun. A lot of fun.
Yeah. To me, it reminds me of when I was a kid, and you'd be glued in front of Hockey Night in Canada, and the Bruins be on, and I can remember. Of course, I'm old enough to Bobby Orr, and what was going to happen, and the series turning, and there just seemed to be, so much tension. Now, but let me play devil's advocate here on Fleury. And he's a team guy, so he probably understands completely on this. But man, don't you think that conversation when you walk in and tell Fleury, you didn't play well last game. I'm going to go with Lehner. Now you're absolutely right. He didn't, but he's Marc-Andre Fleury. Hall of Famer.
Well, and you think of all the dynamics there too, right? So he's the guy. When they have the expansion draft, he's brought out as the face of the franchise. He's a fantastic person, great team player, great goaltender, won Stanley Cups, and then all of a sudden now they go ahead and sign Robin Lehner. So that's all brewing there now too. So now he gets back in net. He's carried them for a while. Marc-Andre Fleury has, and then he doesn't play well or as well as he had, and all of a sudden right back to Robin Lehner. So it's almost like from the outside, it looks like, well, they're trying to get Lehner into the game, which logically it makes sense they would. The general manager went ahead and signed him for 5 years. So logically they have to try to play him at some point.
Yeah. Well, as a competitor, Fleury wasn't happy because, he wants to be in. I'm sure he was kind of angered about it, but, usually like we may be more upset about it for Fleury than he is, just in terms of, I'm guessing he and Lehner have become buddies, and he's happy about that. Sure, he wants to play, but he's not. I bet deep down he kind of understands a little bit, but I don't really know. But sometimes I think the media, we tend to look at it a little more clinically than the actual player does. It's probably complicated for Mark.
What's really important there too, you brought it up, the relationship between the two goaltenders. So the guy that is not playing, so Marc-Andre Fleury in this case, it's really important for him to not let his emotions spill over to Lehner in this case too. So he's got to be, when he walks in that door in the locker room, he's got to be fully supportive. His teammates are going to see that. Like, that's the key to winning. These guys are all focused on winning that game. Go out for that shift and do your shift properly. Win that period, win the game, win the series. And that means everybody, including whoever's the backup goaltender at that point, has to buy into that. It can't be about him. But listen, they're human beings too, right? I mean, I'm the same way. If I've had the career that Marc-Andre Fleury had, I have a lot of pride in myself. And I believe myself a lot. And to take another net and have somebody else go in and then play well and win, so that's That's still a tough spot.
Well, yeah, and it's always a lot more complicated than we ever want to give it credit for. I mean, think about it from DeBoer's situation. Like, as a coach, the fan base, we expect him to be able to make the tough decisions.
Yeah.
Now, the team is looking at him and saying, well, what's Pete going to do now? Huh? Fleury didn't play well. We've got Werner here. What's he going to do? And, they're all looking at that. And I'll bet the room wasn't sure what it wanted to do. So they're looking at him going, well, what's he going to do? And then he makes a decision. And I'm sure some people thought it was the right decision. I'm sure some thought it wasn't the right. So,
and then what happens if it does, even if it is the right decision, what happens if Leonard doesn't play well and they lose, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So it's always very complicated. And that's why we like sports. Like, I'm always, my relatives, particularly my sons, and I have a cousin that I view as a son. They're younger. They love sports, but they just don't understand that if I'm watching what the Detroit Lions play and I'm a Lions fan, like I'm still interested, even if the team isn't playing well. And I said it's because I'm a sports fan. Like I like to see, are the younger players developing? Can this team come back? Like I stick with it. I watch the game. If the Detroit Tigers are losing 7-2, I continue to watch because I like all the drama and sorting out what the coach is going to do and all that kind of stuff. To me, I certainly want the hometown team to win, but my sports fandom goes beyond that.
Right. And as you bring up a good point about DeBoer too, as the coach there, because he's an intelligent man and have to be overly intelligent. And he sees that his general manager had made a decision to sign Robin Leonard to 5 years. He understands all the dynamics of Marc-Andre Fleury. I mean, I'm not saying that's why he makes the decision, but he's not like, again, he's aware of it, right? He's got to know that McCrimmon is sitting up there going, geez, I hope you get Leonard in there because I signed this guy. Like everybody's got their careers and their reputations at stake too. So stuff.
Yeah, McCrimmon's got other things to worry about though, because he's positive for COVID. So
that's right. Yes, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't even know. I didn't read whether or not he has any symptoms or not, and I also didn't read whether he had been vaccinated.
That's right.
One thing I think about that too, and I bring it up only for the sports part of it, and not for anything, and not for any of the other reasons. But in my local supermarket, it's optional now. You can go in without a mask, but I think everybody is wearing it, and I wonder how many people, 95%, in terms of how much you're covered is still 1 in 20 you can get it.
Right.
And you're still dealing with a potentially fatal disease. Well, if McCrimmon was fully vaccinated and still got it, it just means 1 in 20. There always has to be the 1 in 20.
Totally,
so you still got to be somewhat careful. I think you got to live your life, but with sports figures in general, because of the impact it can have on you.
Yeah.
But so.
I agree.
Anyway,
how about let's get to our hated Islanders. How about the big block by Ryan Pulock there to hold the lead there? Wow, that was something else. That's one of those moments I think you look back and listen. Tampa's a good team, so this series is long from over, and I still think Tampa's got the edge here. But that's one of those moments where you look back and the history of the Islanders, where they were on their Stanley Cup run, and it seems like early in the playoffs, they'd always run into somebody, Pittsburgh or us or whatever, and they'd always find a way to win and be that magical moment where one guy makes a great play. I remember John Tonelli one time against Pittsburgh. He was chasing Randy Carlyle down. They were down the game, and the puck bounced over Carlyle's stick, and Tonelli scores. That's a big moment in the series. Kenny Morrow scoring in overtime. Well, it's a huge moment back then when they beat us. That play by Pulock, if the Islanders go on and win, to me that's one of those pivotal moments, I think. But
yeah, and it's really a playoff type play. Those are the kinds where blocks are big at any time, but blocks in the playoffs are it's like we always say when a guy's going to be suspended. Well, one playoff game is equal to 3 regular season games. Well, one playoff block is worth 3 or 4.
It's one of those plays too where you're watching it at first, you're going, what? Like, because you see McDonough make the spinorama and he's got the open net and you think he's going to score, and then when he stops it, that was incredible. That's a great play.
Yeah. That series to me, I'm struck by a couple of things. And maybe you don't even know this because I was kind of surprised when I saw it. Right now, if you look at the statistics, the Islanders have been a better scoring team in the playoffs than the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Oh,
They're averaging, not much more, but I think one team is at 3.19 and the Lightning are at 3.13.
Right.
And actually, the Tampa Bay defensive numbers are better than the Islanders.
oh,
So it's really been an unusual series. Yeah. Now, the actual goal scoring in this series is 9-8. Like, they couldn't be much closer than they are. And, it's 2-2. So it's representative.
And the goaltending is, if Varlamov played really well, Vasilevsky's looked a little bit more human, I guess, than maybe we anticipated with him because he plays so well all the time. I know that Matt Martin goal was a backhand, but it's a tough play on a backhand there too. But it's one that you thought maybe he could have had that one. But
but overall, you look at his last 5 games, which I just did yesterday, and since in those 5 games, he's been over 900 save percentage in all 5 games. He stopped it over the last 5 games. He's at 944, so he's making a lot of saves. Yep. But I mean, I don't disagree with you because I thought prior to this series, he had looked human. Not horrible, but not his usual superior self.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There's nothing. I mean, there was nothing wrong with their goaltending, but his bar is so high.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, because you look at the way the players voted. And the players voted him like it wasn't close. He was the best goalie, and then there was everybody else.
That's surprising with Carey Price there too, right? Maybe Carey Price is they don't really see him the same way anymore because I still think he's right up there too. I love Vasilevsky, but
but Vasilevsky, I think everybody just sees that he's kind of moved beyond. He's kind of got an aura to him. But that's what, I don't think it's true with Leonard, although maybe it should be after his performance last night. But in that other series, when you had Fleury and Carey Price, the auras kind of canceled each other out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But they both are guys that, you go, boy, we got to get one by them.
Although, you know what, though? See, I put Carey – I'm going to disagree a little bit on that one. I put Carey Price ahead of Fleury only because, I don't think Carey Price has had the down times that Fleury's had. The Marc-Andre Fleury's had. Like Fleury, when he's off his game, like he's had times in his career where he's been off his game for a while and way off his game, where I don't think Price has been that, right?
I think if your argument is he going to be looked upon as a higher ranked goalie in NHL history, I think you're right.
That Price is ahead of Fleury.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Yeah, no, I would say that as well. And just for the reasons you articulated. And it wasn't just one bad playoff season. He had 2 or 3 in a row where he was
if you're back in Pittsburgh, it was Murray, right? Came in and took his job basically, right? So,
no, that's right. But the other thing to talk about too is it's time to put Stamkos on a milk carton. He's missing. We haven't seen him. Stamkos just hasn't been the same player in this series. Right. Now, he's got 1 assist. He's playing against the Islanders. There's no room, but
but who's getting all the goal? Braden Point is getting. He's the one scoring.
Well, Braden Point. I mean, we're not even talking about this, but Braden Point has 12 goals in 15 games, and Kucherov has 24 points in 12 games. 24 points.
I know.
So they got 2 guys that are obviously doing all the heavy lifting. And I'll tell you, Alex Killorn has played well. He's been in the middle of things.
And the big guy Maroon there, what's his nickname? The Big Beast. He's got some nickname for himself, so I can't remember what it is. But Maroon does his job. Like I like him as a player. I wasn't a big fan of his before, but he's that guy now. Has become that guy that come playoff time, you can really count on him to do his job, right? So I like him.
Well, the other thing too that shouldn't be forgotten about this Lightning team is, and it's different. Like we talk about the windows being open and closed in terms of your competitiveness for the cup, but I think these Lightning players know even though they won their cup last year and they're trying to repeat to win 2 in a row, I also think some of them are aware that, their depth isn't going to be there next season.
Right.
You look at all the guys, they can't re-sign Blake Coleman.
Yep.
They can't re-sign Barclay Goodrow. They can't re-sign Luke Shen. Even Curtis McElhaney, the backup goalie. Everybody who's becoming an unrestricted free agent, they got to wave bye to.
Yeah.
Not only that, is they're still $5+ million over the cap. Now, you could say, all right, well, then they can just try to get rid of one player. No, not really, because they only had 19 players.
Right.
So they got to sign 4 players.
Right.
Okay. So you get rid of $5 million or say $6 million. Now you're down to even, and you're still 4 players short. Now, even if you got entry level players, that's $3 or $4 million. Plus, you want some flexibility. So really, they're talking about they have to lose 2, maybe even 3 players,
and significant players too. They're making decent money. So
yeah, that's right. And it's just a given. People say, well, they'll just get rid of Tyler Johnson. Well, they haven't been able to get rid of him yet because there's not a lot of teams out there that can take salary. So this team is going to get nicked up a little bit.
Yeah.
In the offseason.
It's true. It's going to have to. You think back, and we talked about this before with Chicago when they were winning their cups, and the first one they won, and how different the lineup was the next year, right? Losing players like Bufflin, who played a big role. So you're right. Tampa's going to have to move some people that are playing like a significant player off the lineup. So who is that? I mean, do they move Stamkos? Can they move Stamkos? Would they want to?
Yeah, I don't think so. But I'd say it will be. It's like when you're at Vegas and you're at the blackjack table. And the dealer kind of shows his hands, well, there's no sleight of hand left for Patrice Brisebois anymore. He's been very creative.
Okay, but you dismissed my Stamkos theory there. You don't think a player like that could get?
I just don't believe that. I mean, he's an icon. He's done everything that. I don't see that. I haven't heard any rumors about it.
Right.
So I just, it doesn't, like, I've heard lots of stuff like, Andre Palat, they don't want to lose him, but they see that as a guy. He's got 1 year left. He's easily tradable. Everybody wants him.
Right.
I've heard Killorn. They possibly do that.
I guess it's just when I watch their games, I'm saying, okay, yes, Stamkos is a great player. But if they were to lose Stamkos, I still think they'd still be a good hockey team. They get, $9 million off their cap. Right.
But don't you have to have some sentimentality, some heart? No, not you. Okay. No. But I do think there is some sentimentality and heart in this game. Now, I don't even. You got cap friendly up because I think the other issue is I don't know how easily tradable he is.
Well, that's right. He may have that no move clause too, right? But you talk about the sentimentality. Is that the right one? Sentimentality.
Yeah. No.
But you think back with the Rangers with Adam Graves, for example, he was and is a beloved New York Ranger. They traded him at the end of his career. Brian Leetch got traded at the end of his career.
Yeah.
So
I think Brian Leetch wanted to be traded though, didn't he? Or
am
I just misremembering? Is that?
I can't remember that. That may be the case, but I can't remember it. But
well, let me just look up. I just don't know how tradable he would actually be, just in terms of his salary and his.
We're going cap friendly.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Friendly.
Hey,
I think
while we're looking, our buddy Joseph Rosario asked a good question. What about Eichel? What's the rumors you're hearing on him?
Yeah, we'll address that in a minute here. Let me just find this because I really do want to finish this conversation about this because there's so much. There's so many players that need to be moved, and there's really just no room out there for anybody. A GM said to me, okay, so he's only got 2. Wow, he's only got 3 years left. So it's a little better than I thought it was. I thought he had 4. Okay, so that he's a little more tradable than I thought, but still, getting something 8.5, that's not going to happen. You'd have to eat some of the salary.
Some of Stamkos' salary?
Yeah. I mean,
here's my theory. Okay, so I'm looking at a team like Colorado Avalanche, right? It's got all those talented players. They're right on the verge of being. They should have been. They were a cup contender this year, and they're missing something.
Well, the problem is with them is their cap issues.
That's true.
They've got to sign if they don't sign Grubauer, they got to get a goalie.
Yeah.
They've got Landeskog. They've got to get signed. Lots of rumors that they may be in on the Seth Jones sweepstakes, although nobody has confirmed that. So there's a lot of things. So I'm not sure that they would, could do that. But 8.5. We didn't look. I didn't look just now to see if he has the no move, but I'm sure he does. Let's see here. No move.
He must have.
Yeah, no move clause. So, he's not, the teams that have the money, he's not going to go to. So now they're going to have to go and if they're going to trade him, they're going to have to send him and be creative to a different.
So if they come, let's see that conversation. They come to Stamkos, and you're right. He's been a legend down there in Tampa. And they say to him, listen, Steve, we've got a real issue here with our cap. I know you love it here, but we're going to have to trade you. Do you agree? Let's give us a list of teams that you want to go to. Right.
Well, you could do that, but the teams that he's going to want to go to, first of all, I think it'd be small.
Right. And what if he says he doesn't want to go? I mean, that's a real awkward thing with a player like that, right? You ask him to get traded, he's going, "What? You want to trade me after all that I've done for this team?" Yeah.
Yeah, he might. He might do that. That's why I said, I don't think that's the answer to their problems.
Right.
I think it's a simpler solution because they're going to need all hands on deck once their depth is eroded.
Right. But you raise a good point, though. So they've got to trade people to get well enough under the cap that they can sign new players because they need to get to that 23-man roster, right?
Well, there's also one of the thoughts, and it was raised. I thought Eric Erlandson, when we had him on, talked about the fact that maybe they'll expose Ryan McDonagh, hoping that they'll take him. Now, to me, I think that hurts him.
He is that. I mean, he is a good fit there because he's not a number one defenseman. He's like a number two.
But the first time that anyone ever had suggested, I had heard anyone suggest he was the number one was when you brought it up on our show last time. I never heard people say.
Well, when he was here with New York, he was viewed as the number one defenseman.
I'm talking about in Tampa, and
right. That's what I mean. So to me, that's why he's such a good fit. He is not a number one guy; he's a number 2 or 3 guy, and they've got Hedman there already. So that's why he's such a good fit.
What my argument was in terms of Hedman clearly is number 1 there, but I didn't think that they considered him to have number 1 defenseman talent down in Tampa. I just got him because I thought he was a real stabilizing force. Was a good transition pass guy, real solid defensively.
Right. So. Well, see, and he's that kind of guy that when he's here in New York, and you see it sometimes there in Tampa, when he tries to get outside his game, tries to do too much, that's when he gets himself in trouble. When he tries to be that number 1 guy, that's why he's got to be that steady guy. Don't try to make any big plays, make the smart plays. So
I think it would hurt that team to give him up.
I agree. But to your point, they are going to get hurt, right?
Yeah, no question. They are, and he's a bigger salary. He's over $5 million.
Yeah.
So now, you give him up, and if you can find, you just go to Ron Francis, and because it wouldn't crush the Seattle Kraken. Boy, I still love saying that. To take that salary and plug him in as the third liner, and for 3 years, as long as you get back, it could cost Tampa another first round pick, to get that done. But and then you leave McDonagh exposed and hope he takes him. But what if he doesn't? What if he takes Foot, the young defenseman? Yeah, he might.
Yeah, it's almost like you want to make sure now that we're talking about it, you want to make sure it is McDonagh, so you're not taking those young guys.
Yeah, so okay, let's just make the deal right here. So we go to Ron Francis and say, you take McDonagh off our list, off our team, and you take Tyler. We'll give you Tyler Johnson, and we'll give you a first, a second, a third. Or is he going to say? Is Francis going to say no? I want 2 first-round picks. Just to see. The hurt here is real for the Tampa Bay Lightning.
So they've got basically they're paying Ron Francis in Seattle something to take those two players so they get under the cap.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to have to give him something, or maybe, I mean, you kind of really want to keep Foote because you're trying to rebuild your defense a little bit.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
So, I don't know. It just goes back to my original point that, this team and the players recognize won't look the same next year. Like, it's still going to be good.
Yep.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But the depth won't be the same. You're going to have to find a really inexpensive backup goalie. Like Curtis McElhinney was only making $1.3 million, but you actually next season may have to get a backup goalie to play for $1 million or less.
I know. And then you say to yourself, like the question comes in now, does Vasilevsky get tired because he's playing so much?
Yeah.
I don't necessarily believe that totally, but
Curtis McElhinney has always been a good backup goalie.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
definitely.
all right, let's address Eichel. Here's what I think about Eichel. It seems to me if Anaheim can get this done, like they're willing. It seems, now I don't know. I haven't talked to Bob Murray, but it sure seems like the Ducks would be willing to give up their number 3 pick to get Jack Eichel, who was once a number 2 pick.
Yep.
Proven score, 5 seasons averaging 25 or more goals for a terrible team.
Yeah.
They're wasting, they being the Ducks, are wasting John Gibson in goal.
Right.
Because
you think Eichel's going to be the difference maker?
Well, I think he's going to start because now here's the question. The problem they're having is I'm sure Buffalo is saying, okay, the number 3 pick and Zegras or Jamie Drysdale. And I'm sure the Ducks are saying, well, what good is it for us to take Eichel if we're not going to have Drysdale and Zegras as part of our offensive rebuild? Yeah. And I think that's where the rub's going to be. So I don't know whether they could get it done. I don't know even for sure how hard the Ducks are going to push for this, although it sure seems like this is something they really need. Like, they've been at the bottom of the scoring for the last couple of seasons, and it's just not been good. I mean, they've got.
If I'm Anaheim, though, I'm not going to say, okay, Buffalo was bad too, and we're bad right now. And Eichel wasn't the guy that made a difference in Buffalo. He was the guy that went to bail out on Buffalo.
They didn't have anything going in Buffalo. The Ducks have a really fine goalie, and John Gibson, and their defense has played reasonably well. Okay, but they just can't score a goal. Like you look at the number of times they scored 1 goal last year. So, but anyway, that's my take. I think the Ducks are in it. Another team that I think could make a deal if they really, really want to, and it appears they have interest, is the other team in Southern California, which is the Los Angeles Kings. They have a whole slew of really talented young players. I don't see, just like I don't see Ducks wanting to give up Zegras.
We're losing Kevin there.
Wanting to give up, they're. Yeah, did you lose me there for a minute?
No, just for a second. You're fine.
Yeah, okay. I don't see them wanting to give up Quentin Byfield, who was their top pick last year, big center. Yeah. Maybe they'll give up Turcotte, Alex Turcotte, another young center who I think is really, really good. So would they? But they got the 8th pick. So now you give up Eichel. You get Eichel back, but now you're giving up the 8th pick and Turcotte. I don't know that that's enough from Buffalo.
This smells the same to me as when Ottawa was trading Carlson to the San Jose Sharks. I'm thinking to myself, why are the Sharks doing this? And I just don't. I see these young developing teams. See, I think it's the wrong teams that are looking at Eichel. I think it's a team like that needs another piece that is farther along in their development. But that's. If you're hearing the rumors, there's obviously something to it that Anaheim and LA are both.
Isn't Eichel 25 years old?
What's that, sorry?
No, Eichel's still relatively young, isn't he? 25? Or
I know. I guess it's my impression of the player himself. It's just that, I'm building
the
character.
You look at this because you don't like Eichel as a player. So.
I don't like what appears to be his character, how his character is perceived. I don't know the man, young man. I've never spoken to him. When I watch him play, I'm not saying to myself, "Wow, I want him on my team. He's a competitive, winning player." That's not what I see. I see a really talented player. That's my concern. And when you put them into these young lineups, that these are impressionable kids. Like you look at the Rangers here, for example, with all the young players they have, and they now need to, and I'm sure they're going to address more of that character issue on the team. Do they let that develop from the players themselves? Do they add more character players? They've certainly added a character coach. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, so where would you trade them then? I mean,
well, like I'm thinking more of a team like when I look at a team like the Montreal Canadiens, they're a character team. The Shea Webbers and that, like to teach Eichel how to be a winner, right? To like if you pop him into
Eichel's 24 years old, by the way, 24.
What's that?
Jack Eichel's 24.
Yeah, 24, right. Okay. So he needs to learn how to be a winner in my mind when I watch him play. He needs to learn how to be that competitive player. No different. Listen, when Steve Yzerman and Mary Lemieux came in, I was playing at the time, and they were still, you can see they were great players, but they were not the character players then when they started that they became later in their careers. They developed into that. They played in world championships and all these different kinds of things and learned how to win. And Eichel will do that. It's just that to me, plopping him into a lineup with a bunch of other young kids who will be looking to him for leadership. Although you're right, he's only 24 years old. They'll still be saying, okay, this is a marquee guy that was brought in here. I don't think that works. But
so I guess you're arguing from who should trade for him, not necessarily where Buffalo trades them. So
right.
Who in your mind, which team out there should go for him, or do you think no team should?
Well, yeah, I'd be leery, but I'm telling you, like if I'm the Montreal Canadiens, okay. I look at the character on that team: Carey Price, Shea Weber. That plop him into that lineup with his talent and teach him how to win from those guys. Now you're getting the most out of Jack Eichel. To trade him to Anaheim, and you got a bunch of other young. What I view Eichel needs is that leadership from somebody else showing him how to win. He now goes into Anaheim and he's expected to be a leader, and he's not there yet. He may never be that leader. Then I think it doesn't serve him well, and you're not helping the other young kids either. But. And
now, who do we trade from Montreal though to get that done?
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I don't know. I mean, do they have enough young kids? And but Buffalo and Montreal in the same division too, right? When we go back to the regular schedule,
they are. Yeah. They're in Atlantic. Yeah,
so you're trading in your own division too. So that's probably, I think, from the team standpoint. But realistically, that's probably not going to happen, right? I mean, I wouldn't do that if I'm Buffalo. That's for sure. But.
Yeah. Well, another team, Minnesota.
Yeah.
They're a team that, but they're a little bit. They're halfway between Montreal and Anaheim.
Here's one for you. How about Chicago Blackhawks? Patrick Kane's turned into a tremendous leader. I mean,
Taves is supposed to be back.
Yeah,
they got a lot of centers though. They got Kirby Dach and I'm not sure that that center is their number one need. Right. Certainly the Columbus Blue Jackets desperately need a center. They don't really even have a number one, but who do they have?
I know.
So, they've got the pick. They can trade. They want Buffalo. I think wants another top 10 pick.
Right. They
have that, but would that serve Columbus to?
Yeah, I don't. I'd see Chicago before. I think it would be a better fit for my thought process. I just think.
Columbus is a possibility, but I'm not so sure they want to give up the pick. And it's not easy because Buffalo. If I was Buffalo, and teams are always resistant to. They say, well, if they don't want to be here. How many times have you heard that speech? If they don't want to be here, well, where's he going?
I know.
Do you think Jack Eichel's just going to go show up and not try hard because he wants to get out of there?
Right.
He knows he's got to play well.
Yeah, so, like his agent and people around him should be saying to him, Jack, if you want to get out of here, you got to play great.
Yeah.
And then they get much more for it. It's easier.
So I would have patience if I was Buffalo.
Yeah,
you can get yourself in trouble. And saying that, we have never heard Jack Eichel come out and say, I want out of here.
Well, we talked so much about Duchesne when he was in Colorado and all the pressure on Joe Sakic to get him traded, and he just stayed patient, and look what he got for him, right? He got a 3-team deal going on and got a ton for him.
Yeah. A little bit different situation, but still there's similarities as well.
Yeah. Cool.
But, that's there's just so much going on, and you look at all the players now in the contracts. Zach Parise, Skinner.
Isn't that true? Like, Johansson, Duchesne, all those guys, those long-term contracts, and now they're not playing well. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's nowhere to go with those contracts.
I know.
One of the GMs said to me when I was asking about, the contracts that the players are going to get, he said, just go through and count up the available cap space that we have, and then tell me what you think the average, and then divide the number of cap space by the number of free agents, and then tell me where these players are going to go. Yeah. Like his theory is we're going to be sitting around with 20 players that have nowhere to go.
I know. Well, look at Hall this past year, right? I mean, he had to settle for a 1-year deal.
Well, even now, like you hear rumblings. Now, again, I have no idea what's going on, but you hear rumblings of a contract at $6 million. Now, Taylor Hall, $6 million is still $6 million, but it's not $8 million. It's not $8 million. So,
but and I hear you, but the reality is he's playing like a $6 million player right now. Like that, to me, that's what I'm looking at.
Stop general managers before, but what is stopping them now is there's just no available cap space.
Hey, really quick, I getting off hockey a little bit here. I went to a fantastic event on Saturday, June 19th, so the Juneteenth celebration in Brooklyn. And I tell you, it was a real eye opener for me. Actually, I got interviewed by a radio station there, or a TV station, and she asked me, "What does this mean to you?" And I obviously I knew what Juneteenth was, the significance of, but being in a community like that and seeing what it meant to those people, how important a date it was really was an eye opener for me. It was a fantastic event to go to. I've gotten to be pretty good friends, somewhat friendly with this John Wallace, a former Knick player, great guy, and he was there and spoke as well. And we had a chat about it and everything. So it was a really eye opening event for me. I'm really glad I went to it. So it's good.
Yeah. Well, glad to hear that. But we appreciate everyone tuning in. We'll be back on Wednesday, probably talking about another big important playoff game. But if you want to read me, I'm at hockeybuzz.com. I'm also at DetroitHockeyNow.com.
And you can listen to the radio version of this show at 365 Sports at radio.co, 365 Sports at radio.co. We'll see everybody on Wednesday.